Hi everybody, welcome back to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel. And before we start with today's review, I just want to say once again, thank you so much for watching the videos, liking the videos, subscribing. Like I said, the response has been completely overwhelming. By the time this video goes out, we will be well over 1,000 subscribers, which if you consider how few videos we've done, is a huge achievement. So I'm so grateful to you all. Hopefully we're bringing you reviews that you want to see. There's been no end of requests, so I'm going to be a busy boy for a long time, I'm sure, as is my videographer Max. So let's crack on with today's review, which is going to come as no surprise. It's a Miroku. I'm a huge Miroku fan, but this is something very different in all fairness. So we've looked at some very high grade Mirokus in previous videos. We've looked at 2 or 3 of the President ranges, and today we've got something very much more mainstream in terms of the design, but it's a real rare piece of kit because we've actually got a combination gun. So that, just to explain, is exactly as it sounds. So what you've got is you've essentially got a shotgun with additional sets of barrels, and in this case it's a smaller caliber. There are different manufacturers that do this today. You've got some Italian manufacturers like Caesargrini, Prazzi, etc., where they will build a combination set with small gauges, sort of 4, 10, 20, 28 to go on a 12-bore action, which for our American viewers is ideal for what you guys over there shoot NASA skeet, where you shoot skeet with different barrel configurations, quite often with different tube sets. So you put the smaller gauge tubes in the 12 gauge barrels. So what we've got today is we've got another nondescript Miroku, which I don't know the exact model, although I feel I'm 99% certain I know what it is. And this is a combination 410 20 gauge. Now, first of all, a Miroku 410 is ridiculously rare. This is the only one I've ever seen. Since having my hands on this particular shotgun, a couple of people have contacted me that knew I had it and said, look, I've only ever seen one more. And it tends to be the older style 800 series, kind of with the V-springs. And 9 times out of 10, the guns are overseas. They're not here in the UK. Now, from my point of view, this gun was manufactured in 1981. Now, I believe the reason we don't see any of these guns is back in the early 1980s, if you were having something like a 410, you would be starting off maybe your son, your daughter, grandson, whatever, or a small person, should we say. The chances are you would still have had a side-by-side, and at the time you'd got no end of choice from different Spanish manufacturers in side-by-side. You've got AOA, Ugar, Parker Hale, which was essentially Ugar, Kestrel. There was tons. So, to go out and spend quite a lot of money on a 410 over and under, it's just something that people wouldn't do. And that is why I believe they're so rare. So the gun itself, 1981, I believe it to be a 3700 game model because it ties in with a very small window of when they manufactured the 3700, which was sort of 1980, 1981, particularly 1981. And they also did a 3750 model, which was a 12 gauge. Rare gun. Hopefully we'll bring you one of those on a later review. And what this is, with it being a combo, is it's essentially a 20-bore action with a much smaller gauge set of barrels on the action. So the way it's got set up at the minute is in its 410 guise. So black action, I'm going to call it standard grade 1 Miroku engraving, which everybody, I would imagine, will instantly recognize that's a Miroku just by looking at the engraving. And this one is 26-inch barrel 410. Now, what's really interesting with this gun is when I first got it, I was convinced, which is a few days ago, by the way, I was convinced it was a 20 gauge that someone had added 410 barrels to. However, that's not the case, and I'll come on to that in a minute. So this gun was actually manufactured as a 410. Now, if you look at the configuration of the barrels, it's quite an American-looking gun. A lot of the Browning Citoris, which coincidentally is what they named the sort of 325, 45, 525, etc. in the States, had this kind of rib. So it's slightly ramped. It's 7mm with big vents in it. Now, what it does in this particular case with this gun is it actually makes the gun heavier in 410 than it is in 20 bore. For me, that would again point to the whole NASA skeet thing, because if you shoot NASA skeet and you haven't got a set of tubes or you haven't got a set of tubes, then what you would do is the idea would be to get the smaller gauge gun weighing as close to the 12 gauge that you're shooting with as possible. So there's no difference in terms of the feel and the handling and the pointability. So on this one, we've got 26-inch barrels, a 7mm parallel rib, quite a ramped one, quite high, with these big vents, almost like you'd see, I don't know, maybe on a trap gun. Choked full and half, which points to got kind of game specification, which is interesting as well. And I'm just going to take the barrels off and show you. So if you look there, just what I said about it being, there's a lot of metal in there, because of course this gun has got a 20 gauge action. So therefore, in order to put 410 barrels on it, you have to put a lot more metal to build it up to make it fit. And they actually are quite a lump when you pick them up. I mean, I would imagine this gun, I mean, 410s don't really recoil anyway, but I imagine this is probably, you probably don't even feel the thing going off. It's that heavy. Okay, so there's your 410 barrels. Now, like I said, it was manufactured as a 410 because all the numbers on the metalwork match up. Now, I believe this gun was manufactured, or certainly ordered, as a combo, and I'll tell you why I believe that. It's simply from the point of view that, having seen tens of thousands of Mirokus in my time around guns, you get to learn with serial numbers there are prefixes with letters. So from 1980 onwards, if you have a Miroku that's manufactured that time onwards, they use a letter prefix, which they still do today. So this particular gun, just for a bit of boring info, is PZ, which is 1981. Now, prior to the use of the letter prefixes, it's harder to work out, but it is still possible. So what you've got is you've normally got a 6-digit serial number, whereas these barrels, if they'd come off another gun, for example, they would bear those 6 digits, but they don't. They've actually got, the only thing that's stamped on these 20 gauge barrels, apart from the relevant proof marks, is S36. Now, what is interesting with that is that 36 cal is actually 410. So I believe that this was manufactured as a combo, and these barrels were ordered at the same time as the 410. So it makes it very, very original in terms of that, rather than somebody having bought a donor gun and shoved the barrels on. Okay, so we've got standard deep body that we all know and love, reliable Miroku durability. I'm just going to pop the 20 bore barrels on, and like I said, interestingly enough, the barrels, when the gun is configured as a 410, it actually weighs more than the 20 bore. So with the 410 barrels on and this enormous 7 bridge rib on the top, it is £6.5 , and with the 20 bore, which is a much more dainty little gun, I think it's 514, 515, which is more what you would expect from the 20 bore side. In fact, you could argue versus modern Mirokus, it's quite a lightweight gun, but then again, it is only 28-inch barrels on this particular version. So, moving on to the woodwork. Full pistol grip stock, 14 1/4, just over 14 3/8 length of pull, with the original Miroku butt pad. The checkering is also very, very crisp. You know, if you look at the gold on the trigger, now when manufacturers manufacture triggers and they gold plate them, it's only, you know, nigh on what they use in a flipping Sharpie pen. So it wears off very, very quickly. So when you look at this gun, manufactured in 1981, to still have the gold on the trigger, it shows that it's had very, very, very little use. But then again, in all fairness, I would imagine this was something that somebody maybe bought as, you know, to shoot a bit of NASA skeet, or they thought, oh, I've got a small grandson who's going to shoot with the 410 barrels, but he'll soon be into the 20 bore. And as with a lot of things, I just can't see that it would have had a lot of use, and that's commensurate with the condition of the gun now. Again, in terms of the blacking, these guns wear very quickly on the shoulders because it's an edge. Also on the trigger guard, where people tend to carry them. This one's got a full tank trigger guard, which you'd expect with a 37 or 3800 model. And even if you look where the safety catch is, you know, it doesn't take a lot to wear the bluing off underneath the safety catch and the barrel selector when it's being moved forwards and backwards. This thing has done very, very little. Continuing with the woodwork, we've got a semi-beaver tail style forend, so like a game kind of fluted, which again, the checkering is just so crisp. It's a really, really nice example of a really, really rare little gun. Now, I would imagine the Miroku collectors out there are going, I've never seen one. Snap, I've never seen one either. The argument is, what would you use it for? Well, to be fair, it's such a fun little bit of kit. I'm quite keen to actually take it out and try the 410 barrels and just see, because literally there will be zero recoil at all on this thing. But yeah, it would simply be bought as a fun gun. The 20 bore, quite usable from a game point of view. It's got a 6mm game rib on it. Be nice for walked up game. You could take it on a simulated day. Just be a nice little gun, even to get someone started in shooting. Again, we're at a time where we've got fixed choke barrels, which adds to the handling, the pointability and the balance. In fact, the 20 gauge, I've not looked at this yet. We just try the balance there. It is pretty good in all fairness. So a nice movable little gun, 28-inch barrels this one is. You could argue a partridge gun, a grouse gun, something like that. And that pretty much sums up the gun. So like I said, from my point of view, I believe this to be an original combo. I've spoke to a few people. They've not really come back with anything, to be fair, but it's so interesting to have the S36 serial number. You know, I might be absolutely urinating in the wind in terms of the, you know, what I believe is linked to the 36 cal, which is the 410. But I don't think I am. I think I'm pretty close. Very, very interesting little gun. Something that I'm certain I'll probably never, ever see again. And again, if anyone has got a 410 Miroku, then please comment below. Please get in touch, because they just don't exist as far as I'm concerned, as far as my experience in the gun trade. That's been the Miroku 3700 410 20 gauge combination. Very, very special gun. Very rare gun. If you have got a 410 Miroku, or you've seen a 410 Miroku, please comment below, because I don't think there'll be many. Possibly stateside there'll be a few more, I would have thought, but let's remember there's 300 million people in America. Very, very rare. Like I say, any information you'd like on this gun, I'll do my best to give it you. Don't forget the website's now live, details at the bottom of the screen, so do have a look at that. This gun should be on there with potentially some more information, but I do think I've covered everything. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing the channel. Who knows what we're going to bring out of the bag next time, because we do keep finding these stunning, stunning guns. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.